Hello friends, this is TKD. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. So today we are going to talk about what are the different data types available in Apex. So we have five major data types which are available. So we have primitive data types, we have collections, namely lists, sets and maps, S object, enums, classes, objects and interfaces. So your variables can be any of these data types. So primitive data types are further divided into categories like integer, double, long, date, date time, stid, or boolean. Collections, which is further divided into three major categories, namely lists, sets, and maps. Then we have S object. S object is any object in Salesforce, no matter what, whether it's a custom object or it's a standard object, it is called a S object. So like S object is the main object. So we can say like account is the main, account is an S object, contact is an S object, opportunity is an S object, like so on and so forth. Or any custom object which you create, it automatically becomes an S object. Likewise, we have enums, classes, objects, and interfaces. These are the different data types which are available in Apex. Now, the first thing which we are going to talk about is the primitive data types. So basically, what are the different primitive data types which are available in Apex and how basically we can use them. So the first primitive data type is integer, which is basically a 32-bit number that doesn't include a decimal point. So the next primitive data type is long, which is basically a 64-bit number, again, that doesn't include a decimal point. But point to be noted here is that we use only to store numbers which are long, which are lengthier in nature. And so this data type always ends with a digit, with the letter L. So just be mindful about that. So the next primitive data type is decimal, which again is a number that includes a decimal point. For example, weight of a person, it can be like 22.5 kgs or so in that sense. So here the thing to note here is like you have to decide, you have to, for every like decimal, long or integer. If you see here, we are denoting a data type as integer, as data type as long, or data type as decimal. So that is the key point here to note. For similarly for double, if you see here, we are defining the data type as double. It is worth to note that integer is 32-bit number, long is 64-bit number, decimal is again a 32-bit number, double is again a 64-bit number. So just be mindful about that. Now we have a lot of other primitive data types. For example, we have Boolean. So Boolean is a data type which can be only assigned a value true, false, or null. So for example, here Boolean is the data type, is active is the variable name, and it can only have either true or false or null. So be mindful about that. So next data type is the date. As the name suggests, this indicates a particular day, and that value, this date values contains no information about time, just the date. Then we have something called as time, which basically this data type stores the times, hours, minutes, and the seconds and the milliseconds. And then we have the date time. Basically, this data type will store both the dates and times. So let us look at to some examples which will illustrate these data types in a more better way. So let's tune in. Hello friends. So in this video, we are going to talk about how do we declare the date data type and how to use it in the variable. So in order to use the date variable, you need to declare the data type as date. So then we're going to declare the name of the variable, new date, then is equals to new date dot. So we have declared this variable new date is equals to date dot new. So this new instance, so this is the way we we declare the data type. So date is nothing but a predefined class in the Salesforce. And there are different methods which are available in this date class. So here we are using one of the method called new instance, and we are going to provide the year, say for example 2020, the month as October, and the date as 2nd. So this is the way how you declare a date variable. Now if I go ahead and display what is the value of this variable, so all I need to do is I need to type in this date variable which I've written just now. So in order to declare a variable, you need to define a type as date. This is the name of the variable, and then you are going to use this date dot new instance, and then you are going to provide the year, month, and the date itself. So let's go ahead and execute this code in the debug mode only, and so we see here the date as 2nd October 2020. So date is a built-in class, and there are so many inbuilt methods which you can use, like new instance. So if you want to know more about this date class, then you can type in Google like date class in Salesforce. That will show up like plethora of information for the date class. So date is really helpful if you want to know, suppose when was your opportunity got created, and also for examples like when your opportunity got closed. So this is really helpful. Or in cases like if you want to store someone's birth date, if you want to store someone's due date. So you type in like date class in Salesforce, and here is the list of date methods which are available for date class. So bear in mind always that this date is a primitive data type. Okay. Now suppose you want to display the today's date. So what the similar way we can use the inbuilt methods of Salesforce, and then we can debug it. Today's date is, and we can just use the variable as today date. We'll run this in our Apex code. You'll see that the today's date is 2nd of October 2020. Now let's go ahead and use some other functions, like let's add years to the today's date. So similarly again we will use we will create a new variable, and we will use the previous variable was today date, and what we're going to do is we're going to add years into that. So let's say we add 2 years into that, and let us let us see what the new date is. 1. So let's say it, we are adding 2 years, so we will be using the new date 1, and so the new date should be like today is 2nd October 2020, so it should be 2nd. Oh, so it should be 2020, 2nd October 2022. Yep. So let's go ahead and run this code in our debug mode and see what we got. So if you see here, so we have the new date as 2nd October 2022. So this is the way, friends, you can use the inbuilt methods provided by Salesforce to leverage the date functionality. Now similarly, if I want to add 4 months from today's date, so you guessed it right, so we have to use our previously defined variable dot add months. So here we are adding 4 months. So today's date is like 2nd October, 2nd October 2020. So it should we are adding 4 months. So it should be February 2021. Let us put this new date 2. So the new month should be 2021. So the new date should be 2021 February. And the date should be 2nd. Let's see. Now we'll go to the debug mode again. We'll add this, we'll execute thread, and we'll see what is the date we have. So we have 2nd Feb 2021, which works perfectly well. So the good thing about is Salesforce has provided this documentation, so you don't have to remember the syntax. You just click on this function, and this provides a very relevant example. So which is really helpful for for your development purpose. So let's move on to a different example, wherein suppose we are having date 1 as, say for example, we have to define the class again, new instance. We are saying, say for example, January 1st. So basically we are saying the date 1 is, and that is the basically the January 1st 2021, and the second date is, say for example, we are having second date as, again, let's take like January 31st. And then date 2 is, again, copying the variable from above. Now what I want to do is I want to calculate the days between January 31st and January 1st. So what I need to do is I need to use the function called days between, and herein we provide the date 2, and so basically this will calculate the days between these two dates. Control this, copy this code, Control E, and then let's execute this code and see what we have now is the days between these two dates. So basically, so my bad, this whatever the value is stored, it has to be in this is an integer value, so we have to save in days due variable, and has to be date 1 dot add days between. The other variable is date 2. Now let's do the system dot debug the difference between dates is plus days due. Let's copy this code, go to our execute command, execute Apex code, and let's execute the code, and let's see, can I be able to see the days between these two dates. So if you see here, the difference between the dates is 30, which is the right value indeed. Now let us see if we can check whether the current year is the leap year. So this is we have to use a Boolean variable. So as you know that Boolean is either a true, false, or a null. So we'll define a variable called is. So we'll define a variable called Boolean is leap year. And then we have a date class. Then we have a function called is leap year, and we will pass our variable new date dot year, and then let's see what will use a system.debug variable, system.debug statement to see whether is 2020 a leap year, and we will pass this. There is a mistake here, should be leap year. Let us run this code in our debug mode, Control E, remove the previous code, and let's click on execute. Let us see whether 2020 is a leap year or not. Yes, so 2020 is a leap year. The Boolean variable is
So
true.
if you want
So
to,
basically, as you know, that Boolean variable can only have a true, false, or a null value. So if you see here, we here only the date and date is shown, date, month, and date, like year, month, and date. The no time is shown because we are not using the time class. So in the next tutorial, we're going to see about how to use the time class. So stay tuned.